Back with more sex education. This is episode 5 of season 3. Very excited to get back into the show for multiple reasons. One of them is that we're getting into the second half of the season now. So, as is often the case with shows kind of getting a bit close to the end, I'm sure shit's going to hit the fan even more than it already is. Secondly, I haven't watched the show in a while. It has been, a little bit of time because of life things. So I'm just excited to kind of dive back into the world and the story and the characters and see what happens next with that. And thirdly, maybe even most excitingly, an unexpected link to another one of my favourite shows, which is of course Doctor Who. And as was announced as I'm recording this earlier today, as a fun coincidence, Ncuti, who plays Eric, is the 14th Doctor, which is incredibly exciting. I think he's an excellent choice. He's so funny in this, but even like the more serious stuff, he's also been great with that too. So I am so excited to see what he does with the part when he takes over next year. This is just a very unexpected kind of link between these two shows, but I'm kind of here for it. So watching him in this now is going to be, even more exciting. Because I enjoy Eric as a character anyway. So the fact that I'm like, oh, it's the Doctor when he's like going to be on screen is quite fun. I am excited to see what happens next with this. We had some big developments from Maeve and Isaac in the last one, which I really did enjoy. Some developments with Otis and Ruby, not as positive, I would say, development-wise. But I think it was probably for the best in the end and in the long run. Eric and Adam, drama with them, as there often is. Michael discovered Spice, so good for him. We're off to the school trip now, I believe. Eric's going to Nigeria for a wedding, I think it was. But everyone else is off to, I think, France for a school trip. So I don't know if we're actually going to France, considering this was shot during COVID, and when they just shoot somewhere else and pretend it's France. We'll have to see what happens, but either way, I am quite excited for that because this might be very different kind of location-wise for the show to go to. So we shall see what happens next, but let's dive into the next one. Theresa May?
My boyfriend just referred to my vagina as a lady flower. Rules? But you're usually the fun one. I know, Ruby, I am. But no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Does it break his heart?
That would make a lot more sense, actually.
It's the easy narrative for her, isn't it, I suppose?
You cannot wear that.
Why not? It's just my tracksuit.
You don't want to do yourself in Nigeria.
You clearly feel really strongly about it. Oh, thank you, but no thank you. There are other students that would benefit from the issue being raised. Well, then they can raise it.
It's the Doctor. This is mad. It does say a lot when Eric is dressing like Jacob.
Jean Milburn.
Queen bitch.
Because I'm currently with your ex-girlfriend and, you stole Raheem's boyfriend.
Oh, Christ. Steve, please.
Let's just have fun, okay? Yeah?
In the trenches?
Mushrooms, anybody?
You need to leave.
All I didn't know about alien roleplay and now she fucking loves it. Okay, look. Guess I can try. I'll help you.
Oh, does she?
I used to think people used to have to dogs for war. Some still do. I'm just lucky.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Just can't be around you at the moment. Okay.
I think that's fair.
What's going on with Anna? She paid for this trip without asking. It's really pissed me off. She didn't pay for it. I did.
Ah.
You said you couldn't afford it, so I asked my mum to pay. I need
Oh,
to take the money.
she's so lovely.
Why did you do that? It's just sometimes it's a little bit strange. I want to get back on the bus. Oh, Lil.
Oh, boy.
Come on, quick, to the fuck's sake! What, do you want to marry France?
It's only been 6 weeks since your last round of IVF treatment. I'm going to advise waiting a little longer before trying again.
Oh, fuck. Controlling the kids at the school because control is maybe the only way she can have kids herself. That's awful. I'm glad that kind of puts her perspective, makes it a bit clearer to me now. Yeah, go fighting for his life.
Jean Milburn, being an
have children.
All right.
Doctor? And do you think having a king-size arsehole for a father had a negative impact on their marriage?
Oh, I love her.
I want to be in the real world when I'm having sex, not a silly fantasy land.
Also, now having sex with me is silly.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't the best word choice. Well, France is going well. France is going well. Oh, I would die. I would open the door, I'd jump out the window, and that would be that. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Shit! Well, they're having a blast, yeah. Still making out. Well, shit didn't hit the fan, but it did hit the windshield, as it turns out.
And my anger is appropriate.
Can you help us, please?
Yeah, you weren't in there.
Oh, ha, that is fantastic.
He probably wouldn't have said anything if Jakob was in there.
Yeah, I was trying to get us some tea.
Oh, fuck the fucking tea. You're in the wrong.
Did someone throw this poo from that coach? What if it was me? Huh?
It's not you, Jackson.
I poo all the time. Someone on that You could be evidence. Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Oh,
Oh, good. Hope's for you. Hope.
Ignore it, Colin.
Adam's got it figured out. It's a shit situation.
We're checking socks, mate. Trousers up. Steve.
Oh,
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Adam's gonna cover for him, isn't he?
Good. Oh, it's my poo, sir.
Oh,
Thank you. Cheers, buddy. Cheers,
oh
mate.
man.
No. I think I'm an idiot anyway. I'm gonna go home. Oh, you hated me, no?
Oh.
I don't hate you. Oh, what manner of beast!
They're having a good trip.
I can't decide to be a baker for a living just because I like toast.
Oh.
It's a fucking mean thing to say. You never accept help from anyone, ever, because you're too proud.
Oh god, I don't want these two to fight.
Really, it's just to keep people out. You've done it to Otis and now you're doing it to me.
You want to talk? Look how you treat Steve.
Yeah, like he's got the plague. Every time
Stop.
he's around
Stop
you,
talking.
He's so confused. Because you're too much of a people pleaser to fucking break up with him.
My aunt died last year, and I thought the sadness would pass, but it never really goes away and gets smaller. Maybe Lily's never experienced that.
Oh.
Try telling Eugene what you like him to sex do instead.
Oh no, who are they leaving behind now? Shit. Of course it's these two.
I left all my stuff on the coach.
Me too.
Shit.
He just got a lot worse.
Is the baby even mine? You been kissing your ex-husband and
Jakob!
It just makes me
Oh.
think, okay?
God.
If you don't trust me, then this just isn't going to work.
I don't trust you. How about the paternity test?
It's a solution, isn't it?
If that's what you want.
What a fucking mess all this is.
What do we do in the meantime?
Honestly, at this point, I say it's just not going to work out. I feel. I don't know. Crash the coach again.
I can't believe you don't think aliens are real.
I can't believe you do.
Oh, why can't we have happiness in our lives, people?
I have written a poem about you.
Roses are red, violets are blue. You stole my boyfriend. I fucking hate you.
I shed blood. Over what? You're not as unremarkable as they thought.
I didn't think I cared about things. But I do. You make me realize that I do.
You make her listen. Yes.
I wish that
Mhm.
you
Aw.
made off the tracks. I think I'm ready.
I figured it was happening.
for it.
Oh,
I know I'm switching
yeah.
back. I want.
Can you pass this to Maeve, please?
Are you not attracted to me anymore? You won't be upset.
Of course, I want to be with you. Maeve's not here.
Shit. Oh, of course she's not.
Maeve?
Babe, who is me? Who are you?
Because I bet.
How have they not known it?
I know you left me a voicemail.
Oh shit.
Can we not?
As it changed it.
do you mean deleted?
You press delete.
He was trying to protect me, apparently. You don't get let off the hook just because you call up once and say I'm sorry.
That's exactly how apologies work, Maeve.
Oh, boy.
What did it say?
Voicemail.
Are you saying you had feelings for me was all I ever wanted to hear? This has always been you. I love you.
Oh, God. Oh, no. My feelings. Oh, God. Oh, God, it's happening. No, there's... Ah! Oh, why can't they let me be happy that this happened? Oh, wow, okay. Oh, when the coach pulls up. Oh, good. Oh, fuck. Fuck.
We're the worst teachers.
But we are good in a crisis, right?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Of course not, Colin. We've been dating for less than a year. But I have been thinking that maybe we could move in together.
Really? Take your applause. You're not getting married, but we are moving in together. Yes.
Can we please? If you love someone, you should tell them that you love them. Tell them now. Because it might be too late. These are called magic mushrooms. So,
Sit down, Carl. You have to spoil it, don't you? You were doing so well, Carl. Let's get that happened and get our general shit together. Yeah.
General shit. Oh, okay. Good.
I do love you.
They're a really good pair, aren't they?
I need to sort my head out.
that's okay.
Oh, I'm happy, but I'm... Ah! It's just still making out.
Yeah, we're totally fine.
My heart is heavy. Okay, I am exhausted. Jeez. A lot went down in that one. That was like France the episode, wasn't it? So I quite like that we had like the school trip episode. It was like basically the whole thing, and then little bits of other stuff going on, but not like too much. I was like, oh yeah, let's see more Eric stuff now that Shooty's the next Doctor, and he's like in it for 2 minutes. But yeah, there's so much to talk about. There's always so much to talk about with this show, but God. But I really enjoyed the episode overall. Another solid one, as is the case with Sex Education, basically all the time. Everything with the shit in the windshield and all of that. I'm kind of mixed when the show does stuff like that, because on the one hand it is funny, but sometimes I almost wish there was a bit more, I don't know, like I wish the show stayed a bit more grounded, like the earlier seasons did. Like with the goat earlier on and the way the cat died a few episodes back. A few moments like that, I do kind of go back and forth on like, should they really be in the show like this? I don't know if it really gels. It just feels a bit too farcical. When like what they're talking about with sex and stuff is normally quite grounded in truth. It does sometimes clash for me, but I can't deny that it was very funny. And it wasn't just done to be like, oh, isn't this show so wacky and funny? It was kind of a big turning point for Adam and Raheem as characters, I think. More so I think it showed some stuff with Adam and the change in Raheem and his relationship with Adam probably going forward. That's something to explore, but was set up here, I would assume. I hope it's not the romantic angle. I hope we're not getting a love triangle, but now it's the other way around, and it's like, who's Adam going to be with instead of, who's Eric going to be with out of the two. I'm hoping they just become like good mates, because I think that'd be a really nice story arc for them. But I don't know, because they were kind of included at the end montage there with all the couples, and I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, where do I even start? I don't know. I've got a long list of people to talk about in this one. We'll start off with the teachers. I sometimes just forget what the names are. I think it's Colin and Emily, I think. But I really like those two, both individually and as a pairing. So again, I think like the wackiness of Colin, I think actually works and is grounded within the show when he does his, he goes off on one sometimes. So I think that always works. And I really like the pair of them together, and I like that they had kind of a significant step forward in this one, deciding to move in together. And yeah, it's just one of those unlikely matches that just, when you see it play out, it just makes perfect sense, which I really enjoyed. So I love those two kind of being, and trying to maintain the chaos, or keep it under wraps even, about the whole trip and all of that jazz. So that was really interesting. And yeah, they're just two fun characters. I think they got a lot of like the big funny moments in this one. I like that they do need those characters in an episode like this to kind of be, I guess, play the straight man, if you will. But the fact that one of those kind of characters was Colin, who has been very outlandish and OTT and very funny in the past, but he can still do some more serious stuff, I mean, it's also just a kudos to the actor who plays him. Because I'm so used to seeing him in Horrible Histories and stuff, so it is very wacky to see him do something more like this. He does a lot of comedies, but, there's a lot of serious stuff to this as well, and I think he does that very well. But yeah, I love those two. I think they're incredibly wholesome in a twisted way. I think it's a really interesting dynamic, and the fact that they're moving in together, where does that leave Michael? As they've kind of talked about, he's going to have to find somewhere else now, so that's probably going to be a next bit for his story. Since we still do have another couple episodes of the season to go, so I'm guessing that's going to be something for him now. Does he just go back with his brother? Does he do something else entirely? We'll have to wait and see, but I'm sure that's going to be like setting up more for him. But yeah, I enjoy those teachers trying to hide the truth from Hope and what was going on with them. Speaking of Hope, I'm glad we finally got some kind of, with the writing of the show, there's something more to all these characters. It's just like, when does that get revealed? And the fact that she desperately wants to have a kid, and the IVF just isn't working, and that might be causing strain with her and her husband. And I just love that you still don't have to agree, I think, with the way that she's running the school, because I certainly fucking don't. And I do think she's making things very personal against some students, and not allowing them to be themselves and be comfortable in themselves, which isn't really going to work. But knowing that she's been going through this IVF and it's failing, and she does want to have a kid, it does kind of give more context to her very controlling way of running the school, and she wants everything like nice and neat and orderly, completely done her way. It is her way, or the highway. And the fact that the process of IVF and stuff, it's a very controlled thing. It makes sense that that's her approach to having a kid herself. That's going to be her approach to how she deals with kids in, her professional life as well as her personal life. And, it's so sad that it's not working for her. And, I do feel awful for her in that regard. And I'm glad I can feel bad for her about something now. And I can I can see where she's coming from. I still don't agree with it, because I still do think she's been quite a bitch to a lot of those characters. Unfairly so. But at least now I can be like, but it's because of this and that, which I didn't have before. So I'm glad we kind of got some context. The only thing I wish is that there was more of that. It was like that one scene and then that's it. It kind of felt like, here's a bare bones excuse, but let's not actually explore it. I'm sure they will delve into that more with the next couple of episodes. But when this is the episode where you reveal that, I wish that had kind of been a bigger deal than it was, and made more of in that same episode. But maybe they just want to go for more of a slow burn with her. But I like that we got some context to, why she's acting the way she is. And yeah, I mean, every character seems to need a tragic backstory, really, don't they? And that was Hope's. So I'm glad that, I wouldn't say justification's the right word. There's some reasons for, her behaviour now. Maybe not excuses. But because, you know, was it episode 1? One of the earlier episodes where, you know, she had Adam and Jackson there, and she just immediately assumed that Adam was the head boy, and that he was Jackson. You know, that very dodgy moment for me that I immediately rubbed me the wrong way on her. Maybe think she was a bit dodgy. You know, that has nothing to do with, you know, her treatment of the children and, you know, her trying to have a kid of her own or anything. That's just pretty dodgy. So, you know, I still don't think she's a particularly pleasant person, but I think that makes her the more interesting character if she's not. So, you know, lots of conflicting emotions about that. But I'm glad that they did take a bit of time, not as much as I'd have liked, but still something to really dive into what makes, you know, her actions a bit more like understandable in the grand scheme of things. So I enjoyed that side. I do hope we get I do hope we get more, you know, really, really explored into that. But that was cool to get some context there. 'Cause as soon as she showed up at the place, you know, it's like, well, what are you doing here? Like, there must be something going on there. So I'm glad they did go back to that. Her and Jean butting heads, you know, that was very interesting to see their very, very opposing views on how the kids should be, you know, taught about sex and everything. Quite the meeting of minds, and I would like to see more of that potentially. So we'll see. But I did like what they did with that. Briefly talk about Kyle, I guess, because they kind of gave him a bit of a story. It was just him being a freak, which he is. But, you know, having the mushrooms and then seeing himself in one of the pictures of the soldiers, and, you know, I think it was just kind of a gag that then they used to tie up kind of the big themes of like the key couples and their struggles and living in the moment, thinking about the future, thinking about the past. You know, how should you approach these big relationships in your life going forward? Taking it day at a time. You know, it was kind of bringing that all together with his speech at the end, and then, you know, magic mushrooms. But, you know, I do enjoy when the show has these kind of minor, more background characters, and they just pop up from every now and again. In Kyle's case, just be a bit weird. And then they do kind of expand on them a bit more, give them a bit more to do in that. Because, you know, he will go on to kill people. That I have no doubt. But, you know, it's an interesting kind of presence to have amongst, like, the group of characters. So, you know, I'm glad he's not, like, front and centre all the time. He's, like, a super main character and thing. But, you know, he brought a bit of an interesting something to the episode. A very Kyle something, a Kyleism. He brought his Kyleisms to the episode. So, you know, some of his stuff was nice, but it was more so, you know, I think he was a means to an end to kind of bring the themes together at the end there, with a lot of the cool couples in the episode. You know, Maeve and Otis being one of them, the teachers being one of them, Maeve and Amy, you know, their friendship, Amy and Steve, Adam and Raheem, whatever's going on with that, Adam and Eric, Ruby and Otis in a sense as well, Ola, and Lily, Viv and her boyfriend, Jackson and Cal. You know, it's kind of one of those things that a lot of, you know, episodes of TV just do. You know, they have like the montage and the song and bringing it all together at the end. You know, like, this is what the episode's about. So he was kind of used for that, and I think in quite an effective way. So hooray for Kyle, I guess, until you inevitably become a serial killer. If not a cannibal. I could see that happening as well. But fingers crossed not. I mean, that'd be a dark twist. Series 4, please no. But yeah, there's that. And then Viv. Praise be. I think we're making some goddamn progress with Viv this season. I really liked her in this episode. Not been a fan of what they've been doing with her thus far, obviously. You know, I think her character took several steps back. But the fact that she was kind of lying to Hope through the texts, you know, I like that she's not really sticking to that anymore, and even she's kind of putting some distance there. I think a lot of that came from her and Ola and their kind of friendship that was built up quite nicely in this one. I love their scenes together. You know, just talking about, you know, just talk through with your partner about what makes you comfortable, what makes you doesn't, and that allowed Ola to have the space to talk to Lily about the alien stuff. It allowed Viv to talk to her boyfriend about what she likes and doesn't like from his side of things. And I guess, you know, we haven't had as much of the Jackson and Viv friendship that I think was one of the best parts of season 2. We haven't really had that much this season, which is a huge disappointment to me, personally. But that's just because of the nature of what they've done with Viv and her storyline this season. So to get a slice of that back and have Viv have like a really positive friendship with someone like Ola in this episode, you know, I think her kind of experiencing a friendship like that again is getting her back on track, and that's why she's kind of, you know, distancing and lying to Hope through the texts and everything. So I feel like some good progress is being made there. You know, she keeps going around talking to all these people about the school council and everything, and you know, she really cares about it. Other people aren't quite as interested, and like even Cal wasn't at the start, but then Jackson managed to talk them round a bit at the end, and Jackson, through his relationship with Cal, has learned that he does care about these things. I think that could be something that brings Jackson and Viv back together as friends, and they can properly make up. That's what I'm hoping is where that's all leading, because he does actually have that passion to make change, and Viv clearly does too. But yeah, hopefully that's where that goes, and in season 4 they're just like, they have their end of season 2-esque relationship back in season 4, because I think it's a shame that wasn't like front and center in this season, I would say. Still do everything with Cal and include that, because I think that's very important representation, but you know, it's a shame what they decided to do with Viv's story this season. I mean, it might go somewhere and I'm like, oh yeah, it's absolutely justified and worth it in the end, but we'll see. But you know, I think they are making steps to Viv kind of realising, like, this isn't how I should be going about things, you know, Hope is using me. And yeah, her actually being a good friend to Jackson again would be lovely. And yeah, her friendship with Oliver in this one and everything with that, definitely moving in the right direction. And yeah, I really enjoyed Viv in this episode. I think this is probably the most I've enjoyed her this season, thank God, because I hated not really liking her up to this point. So yeah, positive stuff with that. I can't praise that enough, really. And then the Jackson and Cal stuff, you know, it was clearly leading, I think, to some kind of romantic connection between the two of them. But it's just one of those things. I'm in two minds about the fact, you know, they're just like doing drugs and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's kind of a bad influence. I'm not about that life, really. Can you not do that? Even though, you know, again, it's wacky and a bit silly storyline wise for the episode. It did provide some funny moments. You know, Jackson, like, I poo all the time. What if it was my poo? That was very funny. And, you know, I think they did a great job kind of portraying that. But I'm also like, oh, I don't want Jackson doing those things. Maybe I'm just overly protective. So I'm like, oh, I wish, you know, there's another way. Live in the moment, but, you know, you don't need drugs to have a good time, folks. I sound 70 years old, but, you know, it's true. So that side of things I'm like, on, but I do like, you know, their connection, like talking about, you know, their anxiety and stuff like that, and what Cal has kind of woken in Jackson, realising that he really does care about these issues at the school and he really wants to make a difference, and, you know, he didn't do what he wished he could have done now when he was head boy. So I like that, and I do like them as like a pair. There's obviously just some big issues there moving forward. As soon as they kiss, you know, Jackson kind of went, you know, felt up, you know, what would probably be if he was, you know, just kissing someone who does identify as a female. You know, he's going for all those places, and obviously that's not who Cal is, and they're kind of like, no, I can't do this. You know, that's not something that they're comfortable doing. That's something that they're probably going to have to navigate, or maybe that's going to be, maybe they're just going to have to just be friends. I don't know where that's headed. We'll have to wait and see. There's still 3 episodes, so anything can happen with that. I'm kind of hoping that they do work it out and work through it, because again, that's a relationship you just don't see on TV. I think, so I'd like that representation. So hopefully they can work through that. But you know, it's undeniable that they do have fun together and they do have a good time. They have a really nice connection. And I also think maybe they gave Viv the storyline they did this season to make way for them to explore that, which you can't necessarily fault them for entirely. I can see where they're coming from with that. But yeah, I liked their scenes together regardless. You know, they did have a few kind of comical moments in that. So we'll see where that relationship does or doesn't go between those two. But yes, we shall see. And then, yeah, Eric was basically just, you know, packing his stuff and off to Nigeria he goes. It was sad, you know, that he had to kind of dress down a lot and dress unlike himself again, because of how, you know, it's viewed, I guess, to be gay in Nigeria. So that's a shame that he has to do that. But yeah, I am intrigued to see where that story is heading, and like, why did we have the need to have Eric and Adam be apart for, you know, potentially the rest of the season? I don't know. At least like the next couple of episodes, I would assume. Is it to make room for whatever's going on with Adam and Raheem to be explored? Hopefully just a friendship, please. Or are they building up to something more? Is Eric going to come out to his family in Nigeria, and that's where that's heading? You know, is that going to be the thing? Or is it just going to be yet another dramatic reason for Eric and Adam to have a fight because Eric didn't answer Adam's text back, and you know, he's going to be super caught up in the moment and in his life in Nigeria and all of that, seeing family and stuff, and he's going to kind of ignore his life back home for a bit, and Adam's going to feel a bit left out and neglected from that. Maybe that's almost certainly where that's going slightly as well, based on that ending with Adam. So yeah, that's a whole thing. And then yeah, Adam and Raheem, I just hope it's a friendship, but I do like the idea of those two kind of forming a bond, and you know, their opposing views on, oh, I didn't steal your boyfriend, I mean that's exactly what you did, and poetry and everything. You know, I like that kind of clash, and Adam covering for Raheem was incredibly wholesome and sweet, and he was like, but I'm not cleaning up your shit, which I think is fair. But you know, I did like that Adam very quickly picked up on the fact that, you know, it was Raheem. I thought what they were going to do was that Adam understood what the guy was saying when he was like, it was you, he only has one sock. I thought Adam like understood that in French, and like he'd gotten good at that maybe, and that's how he was going to work it out. But maybe he just did see, you know, that Raheem only had one sock. I don't know. But I thought it was very sweet that he covered for him there. And again, just showing that change, which you probably, you know, if that had been Adam in like season 1, I could see him just doing that for the fun of it anyway, just throwing some shit at a windshield, and he'd be loud and proud about it being him. But the fact that, you know, this was like a lie to cover up for Raheem, so he wasn't embarrassed. He probably feels a bit bad about what happened with the whole Eric situation. So, you know, it's kind of like, maybe I owe him this one, because I did embarrass him prior to this at the school play by allowing his boyfriend to get with me instead in front of everyone. You know, which wasn't a particularly great moment for Raheem. You know, I'm sure he didn't enjoy that evening that much. I'm sure he rated that 0 out of 5 stars. So it's almost like, I kind of owe you one. You know, this kind of trying to make up for that maybe, but it also allowed Raheem to see Adam in a different light, and like, maybe you're not just cardboard cutout man, maybe you're not dull and boring, maybe I can see why Eric would be interested in you, but hopefully he's not seeing that and like, because now I'm romantically interested in you because you covered for me when I threw shit at a windshield. What a story, what a love story that would be. How did you meet Dad? Well, son, he threw his shit at a French person's car, and I covered for him. But yeah, I hope that's not where that's headed, but I do like the idea of those two kind of forming a bond, and maybe Eric's absence, you know, physically from Adam's life right now versus Eric's absence from Raheem's life because, you know, they broke up and everything. Maybe that's going to be a bonding thing for Adam and Raheem. So many names in the show. A bonding kind of thing for Adam and Raheem, and they grow close from that. That could be an interesting kind of way of having those two, you know, get some screen time while Eric's away. But yeah, I did like that stuff, and I'm tentatively kind of waiting to see where that goes. But, you know, I think they could be a really fun friendship, but I'm hoping that's where that stays. We shall see. And then, I mean, I do kind of still feel bad for Ruby after the whole situation. She's kind of just fallen back into kind of how she was before, because obviously she'd been burned when she did open up to someone a bit. Kind of saying like, oh, you know, I broke his heart, kind of formed this narrative that she broke up with him. You know, I can understand why she's just fallen back into that pattern. It's a shame. Hopefully that's not like a long-term thing, and she will find someone who does love her as much as she loves them in return. But, you know, it was one of those unfortunate things, and I do think Otis did the right thing telling her the truth when he did. It's just going to be something he has to kind of ride the wave through, I think. You know, he just has to take it at this point, really. So yeah, that's just a bit painful, and then it certainly doesn't help her healing when, you know, she then sees that maybe Otis and Maeve just had a bit of a moment when the bus rolled up, and she may have gotten a glimpse of that, which again isn't great for her kind of healing process. So maybe that's going to stir up even more trouble. There's so much drama, like everything's going wrong. You know it's serious when Maeve and Amy have a big fight. Like, out of all the couples and stuff and all the pairings in the show, that is one pairing I did not want to see fight, and I didn't think I'd ever see it, but there we go. But regardless, you know, some nice stuff with Ruby. I'm glad they're still kind of focusing on her even a little bit now that her and Otis aren't together. I'm glad there's still something there, and you know, she does have two supportive friends, for better or worse. He's calling out Otis for all this shit. And then Lily and Ola, again, we've kind of already talked about. I really liked the stuff with Ola and Viv and their kind of friendship that's been built up. Cycling back to the whole alien thing, again, that's another like wacky thing that this season's done. I'm like, it feels weird, like the crop circle thing. Where's that going? Like, are they going to explain that or not? Because it did like disappear, right? But maybe there's just the sole purpose is like you can decide whether or not that was like an actual alien thing. The real story here is like this conflict for Lily and Ola, and you know, the whole alien thing. Lily believes in them, Ola doesn't, and then in regards to their sex life, you know, Ola doesn't enjoy the alien roleplay as much, but she doesn't want to obviously hurt Lily's feelings and stuff. But you know, the dirty laundry's been aired. Hopefully the only way is up from here. I know Lily's still quite hurt from it, and you know, in the moment I don't think Ola phrased it brilliantly by calling it silly. But yeah, I guess I say it's a TV show, there has to be conflict, but I've seen Heartstopper now, so I feel like I'm judging this a bit more harshly than I did before I'd seen Heartstopper. Yeah, it will be interesting to see where that goes. I just feel like every single couple, really, apart from maybe the teachers, is in that jeopardy after this episode. So I'm like, well, surely they can't just have angst for every single couple and they're all going to get equal amounts of focus in all their angst. I don't even know. But yeah, I guess they just wanted some drama for them and a bit of a hiccup in their relationship. And they have been building up to this for a while. You know, we have seen that Lily hasn't been that attentive to Ola's issues about Jean having a baby and stuff and how she's been feeling about that. We've seen her kind of, you know, they've kind of glossed over that, and they've been like, oh, look at my alien story that I'm writing, and look at this, look at that, look at these crop circles. So, you know, they have very well built up, I think, Ola feeling a bit left out by that and a bit overwhelmed and bewildered by what Lily wants to do, and it hasn't really necessarily been as much about what Ola wants to do, which is why Ola was the perfect person to give Viv advice about talking to their partner about what they want. You know, I like that it did go Viv's way in the end with her boyfriend, and they seem to kind of be working something out there. But of course, it had to go the other way for Lily and Ola, and that's something that they're going to have to work through. So drama central, but I did enjoy, you know, a bit of conflict with that, and hopefully they come out stronger from the other side of it. Who haven't I talked about yet? I mean, there's still so much to say. God, who haven't I talked about? I need to start crossing out some names here. Like, you, done. Oh, my pen's run out. Wonderful. There we go. Talked about you, talked about you, talked about you, talked about you. Talked about you. There's so many characters in this show. I talked about you. Yes, I have. I've talked about you two. Talked about you. And I've talked about you two. Okay, still got like half a list to go, but that's fine. And yeah, Steve and Amy, we'll talk about them quickly. I feel so bad for them both because Amy is very much in the right to still be going through shit after season 2. She's still very much in the right to not fully divulge how she's feeling about that situation if she doesn't want to. On the other hand, if Steve doesn't know, he can't do anything about it. You know, he thinks things are a bit better with her. You know, he's obviously sensing that there is something because he's like, are you still attracted to me? It's fine if you're not. You know, he is a good guy and a good boyfriend, and he's being very attentive to that, and he's aware that something's wrong. I mean, he's trying to get Amy to open up to him about that, but she just can't because, you know, she doesn't want to upset him. And I think that conversation, should they have it, will probably lead to them breaking up because Amy's just not in the headspace to be with anyone. So yeah, it's sad because I feel like those two are going to break up, and I don't want them to, because I think they're low-key the best relationship in the show. But I think circumstances being as they are, that's what has to happen. And it's not like they'll never ever get back together again if they break up now. But Amy just needs that space, and it's not Steve's fault. You know, that she's very uncomfortable around him. But yeah, it's just like there's not really anyone at fault here apart from that fucking arsehole on the bus who kind of, you know, kickstarted all this trauma for Amy. So yeah, that's probably building up to that. And, you know, Maeve was kind of saying that herself when her and Amy had the fight, which was horrendous, and I felt so awful watching that fight play out. That's worse than any breakup in this show. So yeah, she's kind of saying, you're such a people pleaser. You can't break up with your boyfriend. You know, just airing a lot of dirty laundry there. And you know, I'm glad that Maeve pointed out that it is their first fight. So that is kind of a big deal, and it was cool that we kind of got to see that in a way, but also painful. And I wish they never had to fight, because I love those two as, you know, their friendship's so pure. But again, that was frustration on Maeve's part from the whole situation, with the fact that it was Amy who, you know, paid for Maeve to go on the trip. I think I kind of did speculate it probably might have been Amy. So I'm glad that we got some confirmation on who that was right from the off. But, you know, Maeve is very proud, obviously. We've seen a lot of that, you know, when she's stealing, like, hot water and stuff, stealing gas or whatever from other caravans in the park, you know. She doesn't want to admit that she's struggling a bit, doesn't have the money or whatever. So that's also just part of who she is, and maybe that's something she needs to work on and learn, perhaps, and maybe that's also where this could ultimately be heading. But, you know, she's very proud of that, and Amy doing that for her, because Amy obviously comes from a very privileged position in terms of money, anyway, maybe nothing else, because she's also going through her own personal shit. But, you know, Maeve doesn't like being catered to in that way, and it makes her kind of feel a bit insecure and small, I guess. So that causes her to lash out. So that whole fight was a lot. And, you know, I think that then made Amy scared that Maeve was just going to push her away because it happened with Otis. And it might ultimately happen with Isaac, so she's kind of saying that. I think, you know, they weren't necessarily meaning the things that they were saying, but yeah. I liked that it wasn't a huge, like, all of them raising their voices, shouting match, like, grabbing each other's hair, flinging each other into trees. You bitch, you cow. You know, it was a very kind of understated, but still kind of, like, high-stakes fight, which I did enjoy, because it's much more real of a fight, isn't it? And I thought it was performed very well by the actresses as well. But yeah, it was sad to see those two fight. But, you know, again, maybe the only way is up from here, I hope. But, you know, they're just kind of calling each other out for their bullshit, really. And maybe that just needed to happen one way or the other. It could have been said more delicately on both their parts, granted. But, you know, they snapped because of events like Amy paying for the trip. And, you know, Amy did, you know, we know she genuinely she just means well. And, you know, I think maybe the comment about, oh, you know, you can just decide to be a baker because you have money and stuff, you know, probably unnecessary to mention that particular part. I don't know if that was relevant to the argument they were having. But I guess in terms of like the privilege and stuff, and the fact that Maeve can't afford to do that, and, you know, her paying for it does kind of make sense. But phrasing, it's important. Communication's important. And no one communicates in this show. Or if they do, they communicate 2 seasons fucking later than they should. So yeah, it's a mess. Hopefully we see it fixed at some point, but I guess it is good from a storyline perspective to kind of get all this out there, and that probably gives them the motivation to move forward, and it's tying to like the living the moment, isn't it, like Kyle was saying at the end. And I guess that's what they're going to kind of do, because Amy kind of does need to maybe rip the band-aid off with Steve. Maeve maybe needs to open more her heart to more people, and is she going to have to tell Isaac that she's made out with Otis now? Probably. Just as they get together, and she's like, I want to explore this with him, but then she kind of heard the voicemail properly. I like that she heard it, but didn't hear it. Like, she heard it from Otis himself, and he kind of like basically quoted it word for word. Like, he's played that message over and over again in his head. He's kind of said that to himself time and time again over many sleepless nights. Like why didn't she like it? Why did she not listen to it? So I'm glad that finally all of that also kind of was talked about, and they kind of understood the circumstances of Isaac deleting it and stuff, and May finally heard the message, and you kind of see what her reaction would have been when she heard it back then. So of course that's why Isaac fucking deleted it back then. But I like Isaac now, so it's like but that's why they've done it, isn't it? They get us to like Isaac, and they just get those two together. You're like, oh, they're kind of sweet together actually. And then you do this, and you revisit Maeve and Otis, which I've wanted since like the start of the show, and I'm sure a lot of people have, and I'm sure that's still going to be the ultimate end goal of the show. And I am happy that we had their first kiss in this one. But I'm also very conflicted because now I feel so bad for Isaac, and I can't believe I feel so bad for Isaac, because that says a lot, I think, about the writing of his character and the performance by the actor as well. They've really kind of won me round on him in like 4 episodes this season, which is insane. But yeah, again, this felt like just everyone tell everyone your problems in this one. Like, this is like all the key conflicts that the show has like laid out right in front of us. I thought that's what this episode did. And now it's going to be maybe resolving and exploring those further in the next couple of episodes, and probably beyond as well. I doubt they can wrap up every single little thing on display here in the next 3 episodes. There must be more to it than that. I suppose it depends on how many actors get cast in more movies or long-running TV roles and actually can't come back to do any more seasons. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Maeve and Otis is a big thing. You know, as soon as they got left behind, you kind of know that was something that they were ultimately going to talk about. And they just played the scene so damn well, and I do really love them together, and I do want them to be together. It's incredible that I think they've really sold Maeve and Isaac as a couple, and they've sold Isaac as a character after season 2, where he was just the worst. The fact that they've managed to do that so brilliantly, that I'm conflicted about Maeve and Otis finally kissing, is, you know, incredible writing, first and foremost. But I'm just like, oh, but now it's just such a mess. I don't know how to feel about it all. I mean, I am happy, but it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's a TV show, and if people are finally going to get together or finally kiss or whatever, it's never going to be at the ideal time. They even do, like, they were kissing as the coach arrived and all of that with Ruby and stuff. It's a mess. But yeah, I did like that all of that's finally out in the open with regards to the voicemail and stuff between them. And we'll have to see what happens with that. I mean, ultimately, I think Isaac's going to get hurt in the long run with this. Hopefully, Maeve is just outright honest with him right from the start. Hopefully, she doesn't hide this from him. But, you know, she also needed a bit of space, obviously, to kind of work things out in her head, because at the time, you know, Isaac wasn't an option for her. You know, she didn't feel that way about him, but now she does. So what's going on with that? And obviously there's still very much something there with Otis, because, you know, they kissed and then she kissed him again and again. And we know full well that Otis didn't love Ruby, and clearly there's still something there with Maeve, and he wanted to talk about that. So we'll see. It's a terrible metaphor because I don't have 2 hearts, but there's a quote from Doctor Who where the Doctor's like, you know, 2 hearts, one happy, one sad. That's how I feel about this situation. It's quite the big conflict, but an enjoyable one in a way, because I am happy that those two finally kissed. 2.5 bloody seasons. But yeah, it's just like one of those awkward timing things now, isn't it? So we'll see. I do ultimately want those two together. But, you know, it's going to be a messy way of getting there. Maybe by the end of the season, then I've actually worked it all out. There's still another 3 episodes. Anything can happen, we'll see. But, you know, we're in a position now where I'm like, oh, but poor Isaac, and I can't believe I'm saying that. But that might be one of the most, you know, the biggest achievements of the show, to kind of really win me over in that way. So, yeah, I am very, very, very happy that we kind of got that development with those two. But why now? Why did it have to be now? But yeah, it was always going to happen. It was inevitable, you know. It's always been Maeve, Otis, and I think it's always going to be those two at the end of all things. So yeah, I did really enjoy those scenes with those two together, because again, it's something we haven't seen that much of, for obvious plot reasons. But you know, her laughing at him when he was getting stressed out, finding him funny, you know, it's like, oh god, I've missed this dynamic with these two. I've missed them just getting on and being close, and maybe this is the start of them kind of getting to that path again, which I would love. So, you know, I can't complain too much about that. But oh Isaac, especially because we just had such a lovely scene with him and Maeve and them sleeping together in the last one. So then the very next episode this happens, and like, oh no, that's just like, I don't know. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that regardless. And it's a big deal, so I am excited to see where that goes. And then I think the last thing to talk about, probably, because my jaw is killing me, because I've been talking for ages, is Jean and Jakob, I guess. I loved Jean in this episode. I basically agreed with everything she was saying. I loved her slapping down that jerk doctor. You know, I liked her kind of calling out everything that she called out. And, you know, her against Hope and everything, her against the doctor, her against Jakob. You know, you can understand Jakob's concerns, like finding the thing, the cufflink, I think it was, and having concerns like, am I actually the father of this baby? Because, you know, Jean probably had been with some people around that similar time, but she was single then, so it's fine. And, you know, if you have that doubt, I guess you just need to be absolutely sure. But if they go through all this now and Jakob is the dad, they've still had to go through that. So is that just like, but we still had to do this to get to this point. Is it worth it? That's how I'm feeling about that situation. It makes me so sad to say it. I don't think it's going to work out with those two. I don't think they're a good match. Which makes me so sad, because I loved them in season 1. But maybe they're just not compatible in the long run. Maybe it's like a fleeting thing. I think it's a really good relationship that I just don't think is meant to last that long, I think. And, you know, I can't necessarily blame Jakob for all of it, because, you know, Jean did kiss her ex-husband while they were together. So, of course, he's not going to be fully trustworthy of that. But they just rushed, like, moving in together and building the tree house and everything with that. You know, they really did rush into it. They have very different views and nothing in common. You know, Jakob has some very outdated views as well, and he didn't respect what Jean does as a job. I mean, him, like, missing that appointment necessarily wasn't his fault. He was just, you know, he had a bit of confusion with the machine. Fine, fair enough. Maybe he didn't actually go looking and, like, excuse me, what room should I be going to now because my partner's gone? But, you know, again, he wasn't at all really on her side and was, like, kind of belittling her when she was making a big complaint. He was just, like, kind of against her on that when he should have been grounded. And, you know, it's bullshit that if he had been in there, I'm sure the doctor wouldn't have said anything about, you know, the fact that she was pregnant a bit later on in her life. So he should have been more supportive of that. And, you know, that side of things I'm not too keen on about Jakob and, you know, their relationship. I can understand the distrust and everything. Okay, fair. But the fact that they do have to go as far to maybe get a paternity test to fix this issue one way or the other, just like, yeah, I don't know. It just feels like it's too far gone now. It feels like they've gone to places where they can't go back, and it's like, you know, it's a fleeting heat of the moment love affair between them, and then suddenly we might have to get to know each other and spend the rest of our lives in proximity to each other. Well, we really don't know each other very well, do we? Oh well, we really kind of clash. I'm not sure I like them together anymore, which makes me so hideously sad, because I loved their relationship once upon a time. But I don't know if it's something like they're going to build towards, and Jakob's going to make changes, Jean's going to make changes, they work through it, they come up strong on the other side. I'd be more than happy if that's the case, because I'm not, like, against them getting together and staying together or anything. But at this current point, I can't see them realistically getting to that point. without a lot of fucking work. And I don't know if 3 episodes is enough work for that, and maybe future seasons we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very conflicted on it all. But I was basically Team Jean this entire episode. You know, some of those people treated her awfully. Jakob being one of them at times. And like the paternity side of things, I get from Jakob's point of view. I don't hold that against him, but it's still not perfect. You know, they definitely rushed into this. So yeah, not too keen on where their relationships ended up going in the show. But you know, I'm not saying that it can't be something that they work through, and I would like them to. But I also felt this story might be going to that sometimes it's just not going to work out, and that happens. That's okay. Even if they do care about each other, even if they have a kid, it's not going to work out. You know, my parents aren't together anymore. They broke up when I was 20, so 5-ish years ago. And you know, it was incredibly messy. But it might not work out. You know, they had 2 kids. It might still not work out. So yeah, I can't foresee a positive future for those 2 currently. I'd happily be proved wrong, but I just don't know if they can recapture the magic in that relationship that season 1 did, because so much has happened since then, and maybe that's just one of those things. We'll see. But yeah, my jaw is killing me now because I've been talking for about 50 minutes about this episode. So I'm going to leave it there. Lots to digest. A lot happened in this one. Can they just like hang out at a park and have a jolly good time and eat ice cream in the next episode and no drama happens? That'd be lovely, because I don't have to talk about characters for 50 minutes. But yeah, another great episode yet again. You know, huge kind of drama for basically everyone involved. But I did like the kind of framing around the school trip. I did like, you know, a lot of where these storylines are going. You know, Viv's storyline, you know, is finally taking a decent turn, I think. I really like that. The Maeve and Otis stuff, conflicting emotions about it in terms of the timing, but what happened, I'm absolutely here for. You know, some great performances throughout. Some cool developments for a lot of the characters. It's just, you know, it's one of those wait and see by the end of the season, like, how is it going to go? You know, the teachers, love those 2. Emily and Colin, big fans. I did like that we got some kind of glimpse into Hope's personal life and why she might be the way she is in her professional life. I still don't think it excuses her by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm glad there's finally some context so I can talk about her and say, but she is going through this shit. So fair enough. So I'm glad we got some of that as well. So lots of good stuff, as always, with the show. I look forward to seeing what happens with the rest of the season. We're nearly caught up. 3 episodes left. Exciting. But yeah, another very good one. Can't wait to see what's going to happen next. And until my next reaction, thanks for watching.